El Dorado County once again has a railroad, the El Dorado Western Railroad. It's the El Dorado County Historical Museum's Living History program, now operating on part of what once was the Placerville branch of the Southern Pacific Railroad. Davy Doc Weiser, a volunteer with the El Dorado Western Railroad, retired a few years ago after working for the Southern Pacific Railroad for 50 years and remembers his experiences.
Howdy folks, I'm Davy Doc Weiser. I drive a stagecoach in town, and I also am proud to say I participate on the El Dorado Western Railroad, which has been going for quite some time and really got off the ground on June 26, 2011, giving rides out of El Dorado. And I'm sitting here in the El Dorado Depot that was built by Ed Hagen and his friends, and it is really a godsend, especially when it's raining and it's cold outside and the fire's going over there in the stove. We give rides every Sunday.
Very early on, railroads were an important part of El Dorado County's history. After James Marshall discovered the famous nugget of gold in 1848, thousands of people poured into Northern California, and the idea took shape of building a railroad from Sacramento to the goldfields. In 1853, the Sacramento Valley Railroad began construction on the docks of the river and reached Folsom 3 years later. Due to the competition among various investors to build the western portion of the future Transcontinental Railroad, the railroad line to Nevada did not go through Placerville to Carson City, but instead went through Auburn and the Donner Pass. Because of heavy freight use along the Placerville-Lake Tahoe Wagon Road over Echo Summit, Placerville residents pushed to continue the rail line from Folsom on to Placerville, with plans to extend it along the wagon road all the way to Carson City. After the Sacramento Valley Railroad reorganized to secure more financing, the city of Placerville approved issuing bonds. Now known as the Placerville and Sacramento Valley Railroad, track was laid to Latrobe in 1864, already a major stagecoach, crossroads, and stop. In another year, the track was laid to Shingle Springs. However, because this railroad through El Dorado County was bought up by the competing Central Pacific Railroad, which built its railroad over Donner Pass, it took another 23 years to complete the rail line to Placerville. Finally, in 1888, Placerville became the end of the line. The railroad, now the Placerville branch of the Southern Pacific Railroad, carried lumber, fruit, butter, and other produce, along with passengers bound for Sacramento until 1986. Lumber companies built two major logging railroads to transport log and lumber. What eventually became the Michigan-California Lumber Company laid narrow gauge rail to bring logs and rough-cut lumber to the mills, including a cable which carried rail cars of lumber across the American River Canyon. The standard gauge Camino Placerville and Lake Tahoe Railroad carried milled lumber to Placerville and transferred to the Placerville Branch Railroad. Davy describes his experiences hauling freight on the Placerville branch of the Southern Pacific Railroad.
We hauled some produce down and we hauled lumber down from Michigan, Cal. There was two places in Diamond Springs, I forget what they were. I think one was an electrical outfit and the other one was a wood outfit of some kind.
The Tahoe, Placerville, and Lake Tahoe Railroad right-of-way is now part of the El Dorado Trail. Another logging railroad was put in by the Diamond and Caldor Lumber Company. Their network of narrow-gauge rail was east of Grizzly Flat with a lumber mill in Caldor and another in Diamond Springs. Track connected the Diamond Springs mill to the Placerville branch just west of the Diamond Springs Depot. Now its only reminder is the old Depot Road off of Missouri Flat Road. The Shea Locomotive No. 4, currently undergoing restoration at the County Museum, worked for many years as a switch engine in the Diamond Springs Lumber Mill Yard. During its heyday, Southern Pacific's Placerville branch had 5 combined freight and passenger depots located in Latrobe, Shingle Springs, El Dorado, Diamond Springs, and Placerville. The County Museum's El Dorado Western Railroad now carries passengers on Fairmont inspection cars out of Shingle Springs and El Dorado. We are planning to build a historical railroad park with a museum and restoration shop in El Dorado. Volunteers now are repairing the 7.9 miles of track and restoring rolling stock.
Working with the Dorado Western Railroad, it really gives me my railroad fix. I enjoy it. It's not the same thing I was doing, but it's close enough, and to get to where we're doing stuff and like basic logistics, passing signals and stuff. Bill Schultz and Dale Fowler and I've been working on. Bill does the rules class, and Dale's our engineer, and I'm going to be in charge of teaching the guys signals. Signals are very important.
Another current train operation is the Placerville and Sacramento Valley Railroad, run by a group of volunteers in Folsom and operates on a limited schedule between Folsom Point and Latrobe. These excursion and tourist railroads are working to keep the history of railroads alive in El Dorado County.
And so the Dorado Western Railroad is a godsend as far as me still being able to railroad, put on my bib overhauls, come down here, talk railroad, live railroad, breathe railroad. And of course, I like going in the old SP 1094 caboose and sitting there. I brought down a conductor's chair, prop my feet up on the desk and look at the old potbelly stove and go off into my past memories. It's very rewarding.